What is up, Toyota fans? This is Andrew from Trailrunner Customs. Today we are back with another video of me transforming my first generation Toyota Sequoia. Now, for those of you that don't know, I recently bought a 2006 Toyota Sequoia with 186,000 miles on it. This Sequoia was extremely neglected when I bought it, and there was tons of parts that needed to be fixed. So I jumped right in. I did everything from replacing interior parts, replacing electronics. I even ended up taking all the seats out and giving it a deep clean. From there, I moved to installing a brand new grille as well as Raptor lights and headlights in the front. I had to put on some new door latches. I also did a full LED interior on the vehicle, which turned out fantastic. And I've added so many other cool upgrades as well. And I'm not going to stop making videos until this car is an absolute off-road beast, so follow along and subscribe for more. Now let's get into the video. Also stick around to the end of the video for a look at a brand new Sequoia upgrade me and my team have been prototyping. So let's jump right into improving the exterior of this vehicle. The first thing we're going to tackle is repainting the front bull bar as well as the roof rack on this vehicle. Both of these pieces are worn looking and have some fading from the sun, and they're in need of a refresh. So what we're going to do is take them off of the vehicle, sand them, and then paint them with a nice truck bed liner to give them an updated and new look. We're going to start here in the front of the vehicle with this brush guard. Now this thing is attached to the frame under the bumper itself, and it was attached with 4 large bolts that were pretty difficult to get off, so I ended up using a nice cheater bar on a ratchet for that. Now these bolts were on here pretty tight. I was able to grab my ratchet. It ended up being 18mm bolt, and I was able to get a good push on these bolts themselves, assert my dominance, and break them free. That way I could move forward with removing this piece. After I was able to knock those loose, I then moved in with the hand ratchet and a pair of channel locks on the back side to secure the nut from the bolt, and then I just easily unscrewed them. That way I could remove the bull bar for paint. Here's just a better look of the bar itself. As you can see, it's extremely dirty and it has some rust spots on the bottom that we're going to take care of. This is the first time that the bar has been off of my Sequoia since I bought it, and I'll have to say it's definitely a little bit different of a look. After that, I started removing the bolt covers on the roof rack. They're just plastic pieces that snap off. I did end up using a glove because last time I tried to do this, I cut my thumb pretty bad. So that is what it looks like with all the covers off. Now I just have to grab the drill and remove the bolts. And the angle on these ended up being pretty difficult for my drill, so I ended up having to get the screwdriver out and just use the T30 Torx bit on these. I think it was T30 or T25, one of the two. But we made quick work of these bolts, and we are one step closer to getting this roof rack off of the vehicle. Lastly, there are 2 pieces along the side that have a little trim on them. You can pull back the trim to remove 2 more bolts on each side you need to remove. And with that, the roof rack is ready to come off of the vehicle. Now, normally I would say that removing the roof rack is more of a 2-person job just because it's kind of awkward to take off the vehicle, but I was feeling kind of antsy, so I went for it and I was able to remove it. Once I had it off, I grabbed my drill to remove the bolts which secure the cross pieces on the roof rack. While you don't technically have to remove the cross pieces on the roof rack to give it a new paint job, I think it's definitely recommended. At this point, I went ahead and gave the front bull bar a wash just with some Dawn dish soap, just to make it easier and better for sanding and painting. Of course, you don't want any dirt or residue, anything on there like that. So I just grabbed a rag and was able to give it a quick rinse and wash. Wasn't much to it. After that, I did the same exact thing to the roof rack and the cross pieces on the roof rack. After that, I was on to the least favorite part of this whole process, which was the sanding. I'm definitely not a fan of sanding. It's very tedious and time consuming, but I grabbed a pretty low grit and I just went over each of the pieces a few times just to make that paint stick better, knock off any of the old residue or anything like that, and did what I needed to do. After that, I carried all of the pieces back to the driveway where I was able to give them another quick rinse down just to get all of the sanding particles off of them and make sure that they were able to dry overnight and be ready for paint in the morning. The next morning, I took all of the pieces to the rocks in my backyard where I began to spray them with some Rust-Oleum outdoor truck bed liner. Now, there's a few different reasons that I went with truck bed liner. I just think it gives it a nice off-road aggressive look, but it also holds up really well, especially to high heat situations and outdoor in general. So I did this to my 4Runner roof rack on my 2006, and I have had it painted with this same truck bed liner for about 3 years now, and it still looks almost just as good as when I painted it. The truck bed liner has held up really well, but it also gives it a slight textured look, which I do like. I think it just makes it stand out a little bit as opposed to doing matte black, which is what I considered, which is what my roof rack had on it before, was a faded matte black. So now painting the front bull bar was probably my favorite part, just because of how nice it looked. I had to get a little bug off there right there, but I was able to go over this with 2 to 3 coats, and this stuff is fast drying. It says on the back of the can that you only have to wait about 2 to 3 minutes between each coat, which made painting it really easy and not too time consuming. As I began to add a few more coats to it, I could definitely tell that it was coming out really great, and it looked good both color and texture wise. Made the whole front bar look a lot more new and put together, which was what I was going for. Now, I don't want to bore you guys with too much painting footage because I had like 30 minutes of me painting, which is way too much for one video. So basically, I just went over each of the parts, 2 to 3 coats with the truck bed liner, and then I sat back and let these parts dry in the hot summer sun. And later that day, they were dry and ready to be put back on the car. I put back on the front bull bar / brush guard first. This one was easy. It just basically required me to put the bolts back and then line the bar up with the front of the vehicle, just how it had been before. And this is what it looks like repainted and reinstalled. Pretty good if I do say so myself. Next, I grabbed the drill and reassembled the roof rack, and I kind of felt like the little pit stop guy from Cars that changes Lightning McQueen's tires. If you know, you know. I then went to put the roof rack back on. Now, it would have been a lot easier to do with another person. Doing it solo was pretty difficult between trying to lift it on top of the vehicle and also line it up to where it needed to go, and another person would have been so much more helpful. After that, I was able to refasten the bolts on the roof rack and remove the trim piece from the roof rack to put back in the caps themselves. Once I had the little clips back in the caps, I could then put them back on and snap them in place. I also, of course, replaced the little trim pieces that cover the screws on the side. Moving on to another cosmetic upgrade, it was about this time that I decided to replace my trim. Now, this trim kit is something that we sell on our website. It came out during the filming of this video, and so of course I was wanting to put it on my vehicle. It was a super simple installation, and I actually have an entire video about replacing your trim. You can check that out on my channel or the card above. Now check this out. I ended up putting electrical tape on the little trim on the bottom of the door to make a black line on the vehicle, since I'm going for kind of a silver and black vibe. So this isn't permanent. I just put electrical tape to see if I like the look. Let me know what you guys think. And while I was down there, I also had some chipping on the door, which I grabbed my paint pen that is the 1D6 color code and matches the car. And I was able to repaint those little bumps and make the car look a whole lot better. Just something small, but it was getting on my nerves, so I wanted to knock it out. And there were a few small spots on the other side I needed to knock out also, but the other side was not nearly as bad. Now let's talk about the Sequoia mod I mentioned earlier. It is a set of fog lights for first gen Sequoias. Now this is the first draft here. As you can see, it's all cut up as we were taking measurements and making changes on the 3D model. But I actually brought in a 3D designer for this, and we've been working on it for a while now, making everything perfect. It's a direct fitment, of course. We ironed out everything from the flush fog light fitment to the fitment in the bumper, and we're very close to being done. So here are a few shots of the prototype on my vehicle. So far we're making super good progress on the part and having fun while doing it. Here's some pictures of the product in action. Anyways guys, that about wraps up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and just a reminder, if you're looking to upgrade your vehicle, check out the link in the description of this video, trailrunnercustoms.com. Peace.